Adam, you're up next. Your question for Ed Martin, please.
Yeah, I wanted to ask kind of about some of the behavior of the way the campaign is conducted. So both on Facebook and on Twitter, Ed posted videos of some of his supporters setting fire to a photo of Congressman Carnahan, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. And then Ed Martin also, you know, he mentioned Carnahan attacking his wife by pointing out that she had oil stocks. But a few months ago, Ed Martin actually criticized the Carnahan family, both his wife and his late father, and he said, quote, "The Carnahan family has a long history of not protecting the most vulnerable in our society." So it seems like just the way the campaign has been conducted, in my opinion, like encouraging these extreme antics like burning photos of Carnahan or throwing shoes at him seems kind of bizarre to me that Ed Martin would be encouraging his supporters to do that.
Ed?
Yeah, I don't have any I certainly don't encourage people when one of Congressman Carnahan's employees who was not being paid threw a firebomb into his headquarters, the first thing we said was there's absolutely no place for that kind of silliness, and I would stand by that. I agree completely with the caller and others who say, violence like what happened to Congressman Carnahan's headquarters, and Congressman Carnahan came out and said it was one of his employees. I think that's terrible stuff, and we should be very, very careful. As to your other comment, look, the public record is what matters. Congressman Carnahan went into office and stated one of his priorities was to double the tax dollars, American tax dollars, that went to overseas family planning and abortion. He did that while his wife was serving on the national board of the Planned Parenthood Federation in New York City. That strikes me as the worst kind of, again, corruption in the sense that your worldview is we know better and we'll spread the largesse to our family members and to their organizations. And we see it most striking with $107 million to Tom Carnahan's windmill farm. So, look, the record of Congressman Carnahan on abortion is a clear one. And my point was simply that his record is to be supportive of every type of abortion from partial birth abortion on. And that's not an issue that I think is central to this race, but it's a descriptive of his record. And I'm happy to say my record is that tax dollars shouldn't go to abortion and that I'm pro-life, and I think that abortion is a real sad problem in our country. But this is bringing in my wife. When I purposely said to Congressman Carnahan, my wife got a gift from her grandmother for education. Her grandmother's deceased, for education of our kids, and it happens to be ExxonMobil. And somehow Congressman Carnahan's going to run around and say Ed Martin's in the pocket of big oil. That is what you call Washington, D.C., insider hypocrisy, and he knows it. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like a politician should that I'm going to look the other way. I'm going to say, Congressman, that's wrong, and shame on you, and I have.
Ed, I want to get to some other calls real quickly. Let me follow up on something you said. You talked about abortion, which we haven't heard anything about in this. Given your beliefs, under what circumstances do you think abortion should be legal? Any? The current circumstances?
No, look, I think abortion is a terrible, terrible taking of human life, but I do think that we've said repeatedly the point of this debate is not to have people talking about criminalizing conduct and what most of my work. I worked for the church for a couple of years. We worked on how do we make sure that women and men who are in the situations where they're stuck in that, and what can we do to help them. So I think it's again, this is a sort of an important issue, but it's not the center. And what's really repulsive, Charles, is that Congressman Carnahan and his colleagues promised America that when they passed the government takeover of health care, that there would be no tax dollars spent on abortion, because that's common ground. Most people in America think that's common ground no matter what their specific position. And within weeks of the passage of the government health care plan, the takeover, there was tax dollars. Remember Stupak, this congressman was the guy who was supposed to hold the line, and there was tax dollars flowing to Pennsylvania and New Mexico to cover abortions. That's offensive. We know what's better for you out there in America, and we're just going to do what we want, and I think that's part of the problem.
Okay, Ed, but back to my question. Under what circumstances do you think abortion should be legal?
I just said I don't think abortion should be legal.
At all, yeah, including rape and incest.
Right, I think abortion is the taking of a human life. So I think that, again, that's a long-standing and public position, but again, I think the common ground position that's been sort of really been troubling for Americans and for Missourians is we shouldn't spend tax dollars on it, and Congressman Carnahan has purposefully steered millions of dollars to, again, he flies to Africa each year to be feted by the Ethiopians and others for bringing tax dollars for abortion and family planning. This is so out of touch with where Americans are with jobs and what our concerns are. That's the problem.